How do you find the will to fight back against a world that wants to keep you sedated, average, and stuck in place? Join us for the tools and strategies you need to create a life of abundance, discipline, and high achievement. This is the Tactical Empire with Jeff Smith.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Tactical Empire. I am here today with a friend and fellow entrepreneur, Brenda Neckvatal, and she has an amazing story to tell you about transforming professions and bridging the gap from a kind of a conventional field into a more up-and-coming unconventional field. So I'm really looking forward to having her describe her new endeavors to you and tell us more about what she's got going on. Thank you, Brenda.
Oh, hello. You're welcome. Thank you. And thanks for saying my last name right. Nobody gets it.
I do what I can. To be fair, Kirsten told me what it was before we started. So I got a little bit of help inside
Girl
baseball.
power.
So, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Like I said, we're both very busy, and I'm playing catch up because we've just got off the road from 3 weeks of RVing. So did a lot of beer drinking and hanging out, and as you noticed, but that's our family time.
I was not going to say anything.
Hey, I stand by exactly who I am. I'm not shy about it.
You go for it.
I drink some beer, but not right now. Like I said, we've got 30 days of no beer now. So we are on the wagon for a minute doing phase 3. But how have you been?
Good. I've been super busy. This is day 22, I think, of working 14 hours a day to 18 hours a day, nonstop, no break. So yeah, leveling up.
Okay. Leveling up. I love to hear that. Let's dive right into your story a little bit. You came out of human resources, and that was really the definition of kind of who you were when I met you. You were the human resources lady. And you were all things to small businesses and medium-sized businesses, and the expert in the human resources field. You are not that anymore. Well, you still would be, but you've decided to pivot and take your career in a different direction. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I have been in the field of human resources and business, like HR in some capacity, but I would say super concentrated for 23 years and doing elements of it for a total of 30. I got out. I'm still actually transitioning out of it. I still have clients in a book of business. I still have people that are, need help, and I'm happy to help them out. But I started walking away for a couple of reasons. First and foremost is that, I have a father with Alzheimer's, and let me tell you something, growing older and aging is more expensive than having babies and starting a family. And as much as he spent for years planning for this, the rising cost of healthcare, it wasn't enough. So I have to now make more money or find a way to make more money to make sure that he gets the kind of care that he needs. He's an escape artist, so that means he has to go in the right kind of facility. And and he gave us that raging shock February of last year, 21, where all of a sudden we got a phone call from where he holds his mail at the UPS store. Thank goodness they knew everybody. They knew my sister had her phone number, and said that it's February, it's 5 degrees outside in a snowstorm, and your father's here. Excuse us. And turned out that he got picked up by a trucker. He walked out of the house in hardly wearing anything in a snowstorm in 5-degree weather, and what would have been a 20-minute drive, he was going to walk.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's at that level. And And there's some other, obligations that he has that it's just like, oh man, we're gonna run out of money fast. So I started talking to some friends of mine, and one of them has been just chawing on me. He's like, why aren't you in government contracting? Because I know government contracting. I'm like, yeah, it's like I didn't see HR and government contracting really as a marriage I wanted to perform. And but then I started looking around to see what I can do, because I've got skills, I've got knowledge, I've got a capability.
Right.
So I started watching, and I did some funny stuff. Like like in the height of the pandemic, I was trying to get into the PPE game and chase the dollar for that one. And yeah, that was interesting. Anytime you had your mitts on what somebody could produce for you, they tacked on 18% to sell it at another level. And I'm like, yeah, I'm never going to win a bid like that. And I know that. Especially like firm fixed price and low cost. It just wasn't going to win. Wasn't going to do it. And then, I tried like janitorial supplies and office supplies and, big cans of food for cafeterias. And I'm like, I'm up against too many big dogs. But as I was going through that process, I saw drones starting to pop up. And I went, that's interesting. And that's new. What is this? And so I started looking into it, and I started digging in. And that's when I very quickly realized that the drone industry, there's still a lot of blue ocean out there for it. It's still very much a blue ocean industry in a number of different ways. So I started looking at and listening to what the challenges and the issues were in the markets. I started leaning towards where I had resources, and particularly my resources stem from the contacts and the relationships I have in naval special warfare and with the Navy SEAL community. Well, guess what? Law enforcement officers fly drones. Law enforcement officers want to learn how to be better as tactical operators when necessary. And guess who I know has the ability to do that? And that's really what stemmed everything right there. Speaking of which, one of them just texted me. So I started looking at all of the problems that I was listening to for 2 weeks. I went to two trade shows, met with a ton of officers. I have a mentor now as well. I've always had a mentor in everything that I've done. And so now I have a mentor. He's in the counter UAS space as well. So drones used for domestic terrorism, that kind of a thing. And just listened. And then I figured out, because this is one of my areas, is my zone of genius, is looking at a problem and plugging a hole and creating a solution. And so that's what I did. So we started, creating courses, and we started dirt diving them with, we did a canine course with Virginia State Police. They really liked what we had to offer. Their head of tactical immediately turned and looked at me, says, I want my guys to learn how to fly indoors. Check. And it just progressed. What was part of a 3-year plan very quickly wound up allowing me an opportunity to launch a drone range in 45 days. I've never launched a business so damn fast in my life. And we still have some design work, and we've already got like the next phase of it that we're planning on rolling out. We just got a couple of things. I'm like, we're not jumping into the next phase until we finish everything on this one. Right. Because phase 2 won't mean anything until we finish phase 1. So it started with 50 acres of land in unrestricted airspace in the middle of peanut and cotton land of Virginia. And it expanded within less than a week to an additional 94 acres of land use. So our range is 50 acres of land that you can stand on, and an additional 94 acres that you can fly in, and a couple of different environments, open fields, and then a mature forest, which is great because, your background, right. You understand, IR, and IR doesn't always play nice in thick canopies of wooded areas, but it makes for a great training ground to try and figure that out. New equipment, the industry changes every 6 months in the technology. So therefore there's a lot of need for it. But the need and the big answer is that this range is about an hour outside of the Hampton Roads area that has 8 airports and they all overlap. And so we don't have any space out here to practice in unrestricted airspace. So this now solves the airspace problem of this area. And it's specifically designed for military, law enforcement, federal agencies, counter UAS, vendors that want to sell to those same markets that need a place to showcase. And it's pretty fantastic. So,
That's
you know,
amazing.
nothing, you know, I haven't been doing very much lately.
Yeah, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
what a fascinating pivot though. And things have gone so quickly for you. So
Yeah.
that's very cool. Very cool.
Thank you. And to top it off, I'm actually putting together a coaching program for people who want to break into the drone industry. And it's just everything that I'm doing is just pulling all of the skills, the talents, and the knowledge that I have and just maximizing it.
I love that. I love that. Tell me about your course. What is it? So it's for beginners or people looking to get into the industry that may be out of industry.
Yeah. So it's
Okay.
really designed for people who have a passion for drone flying that want to make money at it, whether they want to do it as a part-time or a full-time thing. Understanding how to do what you need to do with the airspace is one element of it. I am not the person that's going to geek out on the technology. There's a lot of people out there that do that, but what I am going to geek out on is to teach you how to build an organic following on social media, how to network and get into industry and understand how to apply industry problems and solutions to problems, and basically how to make money and just be really good at what it is that you want to do.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And the purpose of this podcast is all about designing your life and engineering your life, the life that you want to have. And so you took a big risk stepping away from everything that you knew. I mean, 3 decades in an industry and then moved into a completely new field. But the lessons I take away from your story, while I find it fascinating, are that like relationships built you along with skills, and then business being business across the board, quite frankly. And so it's not as scary as it sounds. Because when you introduce it, like, hey, I'm going from HR, which is quite a vanilla industry, I will say. I mean, I came out of the court.
There's not much sexy about HR. I'm sorry, it just isn't.
I came out of the corporate world.
Like, so. Yeah, it's just people look at you like you have 3 heads after a while. So I get it.
Yeah.
It's not sexy at all.
Into drones, which is kind of like, that's weird. Most people don't know much about them at all. And then take it a step further to be like tactical operators in military, government, contracting, law enforcement. So like, I think that's probably where the relationships came into play, right? You had the relationships in those areas previously, correct?
I did. So like, for example, one of my good friends, he's a retired command master chief that came out of development group. So everybody knows that is SEAL Team 6. He's the president of a drone company. And so, he and I spend a lot of talking, but his background is telecom and enterprise systems. And my background is I have a heavy background, not just from HR, but naturally from teaching. I've done a lot of coaching and a lot of teaching. And so, he and I were chatting and I said, hey, that really cool drone that, you're putting together for law enforcement? Yeah. I said, who are you going to have do the training for it? And he goes, I don't know. I said, how about us? And he goes, sounds good. So we got that relationship, right?
Yeah.
And, I've got another SEAL that works for another company that does tethered drones. And, we've been talking and he's like, this place is great. He always talks like, this place is just great. I love it. He said, let me help you get somebody. I want to help you get as many vendors out here to demonstrate, whatever. And that's him. And so because I get the needs and I get the fact that these guys are looking specifically to find ways to punch through with as less resistance as possible, that allows me the opportunity to speak in that manner to people I've never met before, and people who are going to look at me like, Who the hell are you? And why do you think you have any right coming into law enforcement? Ooh, that's cool. Oh, that looks really good. And, I've done it up until this point, and I haven't told you this yet, but I've done it by being an outsider in a industry, in a business, so to speak, that the brotherhood, your brotherhood, there's very little trust from outsiders coming in, and mainly because in this industry, people are always trying to tell law enforcement how to do their job, but they don't know what it's like doing their job. We're not about that. We're not here to tell you how to do your job. We're here for knowledge transfer. We're here to help you take what you got, which is probably really good, and make it and give you something that's going to narrow whatever gaps that you start to see, whether that's working on flying indoors, because we do have an indoor training element where you can fly a drone in a GPS denied environment, not see what it is because it's got a maze and walls. And oh, by the way, if you really want to add pressure, we're going to throw a smoke grenade in there. Now you're really going to screw you up, right? Now figure out how you're going to get out of that in a simulated burning environment. Holy cow, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That turns people on. And everybody that I've told that to, they're like, oh, right? And I'm actually going to fly it myself for the first time on Sunday.
Oh,
So watch for that footage is coming out. But what has happened is another door has opened up for me to gain access more into the industry and feel less of an outsider. And that is, I'm actually now a sheriff's deputy here in Virginia.
I saw that.
So I was invited to do it. I thought about it.
Do we call you Sheriff Neckvatal?
No, you do not.
Yeah. Why not? Why not?
No.
Sheriff Brenda.
Are you kidding me? Dude, I already had enough issues being called the HR lady. I didn't make this any easier. So, but it's a great tool. It allows me to help the department with limited resources as well, do some pretty good stuff, protect, and give back. I mean, we're all about service. But so yeah, it has been a ride. It has been a real ride. And the whole time, believe it or not, I'm doing this while I still have to make money for myself because I don't take a salary for any of the drone stuff.
Right.
That has to go towards my father. And then, when he passes, then all that'll come to me, but because I built it. But yeah, so busy.
Sure. So you're still doing HR stuff for yourself then, right? Okay. Do you see a path? I mean, with your astronomical success, if you will, very quickly, I mean, do you see a path to scale this and grow it to the point where like that becomes an afterthought?
The drone. Oh yeah, absolutely. The drone thing is, at some point I'll be able to take a salary, but until that transition, until we're to that point, I'm still reliant on my own income.
Yeah.
And so, that comes with having to make the right kind of decisions. But at the same time, the priority, first and foremost, has been to put something in place. So then that way, my father's funded.
But that's a great position to be in. You're building an asset and just reinvesting in it. And at the end of the day, you'll have all of the assets because you've delayed the gratification from it. I mean, quite frankly. So it's super interesting, and that's very cool for you. It's a very cool opportunity because I mean, 2 or 3 years from now, that based on the trajectory you're on with the growth you've experienced in the company, why wouldn't it scale to other agencies, other areas of the country, other departments?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And the drone range is only, it's opened up opportunities for people to be able to get very creative with what it is that they want to do. So like vendors can come in and show, like anybody that supports piece of technology with drones can come in, and we have a lot of mission planning to do for that kind of stuff. But they come in, we want them, my mission is to make sure that they have a good flying experience. And that means sitting down with them, and like if they're coming in with like counter UAS system and they want to turn buttons on, and our concern is like, well, we don't want everybody's garage doors to open on their own and have people wondering what the hell we're doing over here. Like, we do not want to be Area 51 of Wakefield, Virginia. But at the same time, it's like, help us understand what's going on so we can get to yes, and do it safely. Safety is a really big factor in the national airspace, and we respect that first and foremost beyond anything else. So it's really important. I've actually been talking to the FAA and starting to build relationships over there. So if I have questions, and I have somebody that I can go say, hey, let me ask you this, and recognize that they're going to be on the far extreme of, conservative answers. And that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. It's like, just tell me what the right and the left are, so I know how to operate,
Can you take your like entire show on the road for different reasons? Like, meaning when we were in the military, we used to utilize different training facilities, right? Of course, like we would fly in, we would do a whole bunch of stuff, but using different shoot houses, different environments, like different teams of pilots, depending on what we were utilizing. I could see there being a demand for taking you to different locations to train as well.
Yeah, so that's on the training side of things.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't, unfortunately, I can't pack 144 acres in a suitcase. That would have been lovely,
yeah, of course that.
Yeah, but the training piece, yeah, absolutely. We will go. We will go. I mean, we're actually working on a potential opportunity down in Florida right now. And Florida's their drone programs as a whole are a little upended right now, just simply because the governor has ruled out any DJI drones. They're now grounded. And so now everybody's trying to figure out, okay, so what's next? Because DJI has, 75, 95, was it 74% of the market share in the US and 95% market share in law enforcement.
Okay, what's DJI?
DJI is a Chinese made drone.
Okay.
That even the federal government has deemed there's potential security issues with it. I mean, it's open source information, but
right. I just want to know for the audience, because I don't know this stuff.
No, okay. Yeah, you're about ready to learn about drones. No, that's my shyness in HR coming out, because I'm all like, trained to be politically neutral, but like I don't want to piss off another country. It is what it is.
I will. Tell me what it is.
I know you are. But anyway, but that's a challenge, because there's really no American made product right now that can compete with it. It's a great drone. I fly DJI drones, but there's also certain drones that are identified as not breaching security here in the United States, or risk of it, and they're called blue UAS. Kind of think of like blue on blue in your world, same kind of a thing. So there's blue UAS. So we're working on the opportunity to do that. We're now starting to train forensic technicians how to utilize drones and to create 2D and 3D renderings of car accidents and crime scenes, and it's pretty cool.
So what you're telling me is these drones are actually recording every single video they ever take, and they're being stored in some Chinese server farm, and they're mapping every bit of terrain in the United States.
That's the concern. And
I don't know who would ever think of that, but my number one concern, and I just heard about this fucking thing.
Yeah.
Like
that is the concern that's being addressed. The current administration is actually very sensitive to that. They have, and that's part of the reason they have restricted trading with certain provinces of China. Now I've been to China. I was in China in 1992. It's a very different China back then it is today. So I get it. Yeah. I think we were the only white people in China for 10 days, but I'll be honest with you. Yeah, it was something else. We got a lot of looks. Like we just walk down the street and
You don't belong here.
it was just like, like, what was that? But yeah, I mean, there's some sensitivities to it. The federal government, like the Department of Interior, it was it 2020? I think it was 2020. Yeah, they grounded 1,000 DJI drones. That's a lot. That's a fleet. So, it's a concern, but it presents a challenge in these markets because there really is nothing that is capable right now of stepping up and stepping in. And so the hunt is on.
Why can't we manufacture them in the US?
It's a good question. And some of them are. They're starting to come up. It's just they're behind the times.
Yeah,
And technology changes so damn fast.
sure. Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, that's just like the chip companies that were backing up the auto industry for so long, right? They said we needed to bring those chip companies in manufacturing to the United States, and those manufacturers take 5 years to build, and so there is a delay, certainly.
Yeah,
in
we have a lag.
manufacturing.
Yeah,
So,
and then the pandemic did not help with
Sure.
raw materials and the access to raw materials. If you look at lithium, for instance, not the drug, but the battery, like lithium has to be mined in a specific way. This is where I am going to geek out on you. I was at a AUVSI chapter luncheon that I went to a couple weeks ago, where one of the, I don't know what you want to call it, not ballistic, but a helicopter that can be used for military applications, Coast Guard applications, and like that. They're actually looking to include hydrogen fuel cells now instead. And hydrogen is 99% recyclable. And it doesn't have the same limitations as lithium, and it's easier to actually put together and mine because it converts the energy different, and it expels its waste in the form of water.
Okay.
So if you're looking at, like, if you want to look at the next investment, pay attention to hydrogen-based power because it's coming.
Right.
And it's a very strong source of power. Lithium at some point, because it's controlled overseas, will be eventually limited, and it's volatile under pressure.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of reasons lithium should be limited in what we're doing from an energy standpoint, in my opinion. So that's super interesting. So this is like cutting edge stuff. So that's fun. That is fun.
One of the fun things that we're a part of is with Value Aerospace, and they have a new drone that is coming out. I got the phone call today saying that they figured out their manufacturing hiccup, and that's how do we manufacture this drone, which is an octocopter, 8 propellers, and it is designed to fly indoors, meant specifically for law enforcement in a GPS denied environment. And we're going to be doing the training on it. This drone is super lightweight. It can be used with both the first person view goggles, or it can be used just like with an Apple tablet, an iPad. And the thing looks like a flying take-up wheel from an old projector, but it's so cool. And it's got a great camera on it, so that way they can fly it. If tactical needs to get it out of the way temporarily when things get hot in a room, which you are very familiar with, there's a couple of things that they can do, and when we have the ability to actually teach them these tactics and tools, and they're looking at actually moving their entire fleet of drones that they manufacture from lithium into solid state because it's more stable. So, and by doing that, their parent company bought a battery company. So, but yeah, it's pretty cool. And to be in the front line of that with another company and starting to put some really good stuff out there. The next thing that we're working on is actually figuring out with them alongside is how do we get these drones into the hands of departments with limited resources? And so my team is actually looking at writing that up specifically for training. So they're dealing with the drone and the distribution, and we're dealing with the training side of it, which would be pretty awesome.
So the major expense there is not the actual drones themselves. It's
Right.
it's the training and the capabilities of the human assets, right?
So it depends on how you look at the cost. So, I mean, you have your financial cost of the unit itself, but the bigger cost is the amount of time you can time collapse that in training, or you can have somebody exhaust a lot of department labor resources to figure out how to use something that's our job to do. Either
Mhm.
way, it's not a wrong answer, right? It's just all dependent on what direction you want to go in. And this is a more manual drone. So those that are used to flying an automated system like the DJI, where you can just hit a button, program in what pattern you want it to fly and go, and all you have to do is just monitor its flight. This is going to be a very different type of environment. This is really meant for somebody that's got to ride the stick, that's, highly tactical. It's got awesome capability. It can actually, because of its configuration, it can actually drop to the floor and look underneath furniture. So if there was like a threat for incendiary device of some
Right.
kind, I mean, it has capability, right? So how do you come up with those scenarios to make the training better? The challenge right now in law enforcement when it comes to training is the fact that across the country, law enforcement is down 1/3 of its forces.
Staff, yeah.
Mhm. So they want the training, they know they need the training, but during high times of public activity and with the any rise of crime, those that train have to now go back out in the field. So
Sure, sure. I
industry
understand that.
challenge. Yeah,
Yeah,
industry challenge, right?
yeah.
So
Interesting. Huh. Well, how can people find your coaching resources or you or anything else?
the best place to go is find everything all consolidated on my website at brendaneckvatal.com. And you spell my name Neck, like the thing you want to choke, V as in Victor, Atal. Or you can just cheat and look at the screen because it's right there. But that's the best place to start right there. And
Okay.
I'm on social media, same spelling. You can look at the Drone Farm USA, aerial recon training. Those are all the handles. So pretty
All
cool stuff.
right. We will link all of her stuff in the show notes. And so if you're interested in breaking into the drone industry or you're looking for a new start to a career, something like that, you might want to check out her training for sure. Because she has successfully done it in a very short period of time. So I definitely would think she's an expert in transitioning fields of careers for
So
sure. Um, what is the number one thing people need to know if they are coming into that industry? Like if so a year ago you didn't think you were going to be in this industry, so now what's the number one thing that was a surprise coming in, I guess?
I wouldn't say it's so much as a surprise. it it took a different form. And there's always a bigger fish. And so when you come into an industry where there's a lot of geeking out on the technology, somebody's always going to want to show you up. Just be ready for that. Because it can be a real distractor, and it can really kind of get you down, and it'll actually make you feel kind of bad that even though you you could be celebrating because you figured out how to launch your drone without any training whatsoever, fly it around and not crash it, and you feel pretty good about yourself. And then you start talking about your drone, and then somebody's just all of a sudden just rattling off at the speed of M16 rounds coming out about everything that they know and do, and and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, you big world, and then you're kind of right down to there, right? I got a guy.
It's the same thing in
Yeah,
the gun world. Like they
yeah.
talk ballistics
No, oh
and
my god.
rotational and the rifling of the barrels and all that stuff. I mean, you
Yeah,
can go all the way down the rabbit hole.
yeah. And you know what? I have figured out how to. So those people that I run into, because I'll sit there. I go out shooting with the guys every now and again, and not any of them that do this, but other people that we've been around that are outside of, the SEAL community, and they start doing exactly that. And I look at them, and then it's like when I start feeling kind of like small capacity, because I'm not a bad shot, but it's like, it's not a competition, in my opinion. I'm only doing it for me, not for everybody else. And I just look at them and I shut them up. I say, it's the one thing that I learned about bullets, and that is the absolute truth. He goes, what's that? And I said, they can only fly straight. And they kind of like think about it for a second, and then I just walk off. It's like, I'm done. I'm not going to do this with you. But it's kind of the same thing with drones. You're always going to have somebody that one-ups you. I got a guy in my world that I don't tell him any of my drone accomplishments anymore, because he does exactly that. And he's brilliant. And I learned so much from him. I'd rather shut up and listen to him, and they'll go, okay, make a note of that. We'll apply that somewhere else. But, this is an area where somebody's going to know more than you. So don't come in thinking that just because you can do what you can do, that you are instantly the best, because there are people that have been doing this a lot longer, and the early adopters, you're going to run into that. So just keep it humble, keep it straightforward. I have never made the claim that I'm the best drone pilot in the world, but I will tell people, it's like, I'm not an aggressive flyer. These guys are. So if you want to work with somebody that's capable of moving fast through an arena, an obstacle, a field, a range, an element, a scenario, these are your guys. If you want slow, methodical, think through the problem, fly with me, because that's my skill. My skill is not doing that. My skill is doing this. I'm a different operator than they are.
Right.
So buy it, take advantage of our different views on how we do this. And when you put yourself in that mindset, and you realize that you've got a different set of skills, you know what? That's only unique to you. Nobody can take that away. So all of that rapid fire stuff that I just got done talking about, put it aside, because you're not them, they're not you. So just keep moving in your direction.
That's great business advice for anyone, though, quite frankly, is because you just need to be yourself and like lean on your skill set, right? You don't need to adapt your skill set to somebody else's skill set, because it will be unnatural. And so, and there's also something to learn from everybody. And if you can accept that, then there's a million ways to do business in any industry, right? And you only need that little slice of the pie in your industry to do just fine. Yeah. And so,
and the reverse of that is that if you go into a conversation expecting to share knowledge with somebody who's been doing it for a little while, don't get all ego bent out of shape that they're not taking your words of wisdom for what they are. Don't get yourself out of that mindset, because if you do, that'll shrink your confidence as well. And you can't fly drones and not be confident.
There you go. You heard it from Sheriff Brenda first. So if you're a veteran, or if you're looking for a new industry, or if you're a veteran, this sounds like right up the veterans alley, quite frankly. Or anybody out there looking to learn more about drones, look up Brenda's course. Like I said, we will link to her website, BrendaNeckvatal.com, and all her social handles. Hit her up. I'm sure she's the most generous person. So I'm sure she takes questions and helps people out. That is her MO in every area that she's ever worked in, whether it be HR. If you got HR questions, don't send them her way. She's too busy. There's other people for that. But
we will go through those really quickly. We'll have a longer conversation in drones. It'll be funner.
No doubt. Thank you for your time today, Brenda. I definitely look forward to your future success and watching it as you grow this company. So congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the show. Make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend. We'll see you on the next episode of the Tactical Empire.